This video segment is one of many that will be produced throughout this sesquicentennial year for your viewing enjoyment. They are intended to raise your awareness of the rich cultural and heritage preservation treasures right here in our own backyard.
Come right in. I'd like to welcome you to Harry W. Metter Coal Museum. This is one building in Big Stone Gap that evolves full circle from a museum to a community center back to a museum. After the building ceased to be a community center, Harry W. Metter, he purchased the building for Westmoreland Coal Company in the mid-70s. Okay, we have a old water pump here. Brass water pump is used to dewater the mines with. Usually after you take coal out of the mines, water would migrate in your airways and travelways, and you had to dewater it, so that's the type of pump we used. We have the old wood water line they used to pump water in or out of the mines with. It was barrel type, used with bands, and primarily why they used the wood was the chemicals would eat the steel water lines up, so they used the wood, the hard wood, usually maple. Okay, we have the old breast auger. It was used to drill the coal for preparation to blast the coal out for dynamite. They had to blast it out, so they didn't have any hydraulic drills back in the old days. They had to drill it all by hand. They called them a breast auger. Okay, I'd like to talk a little bit about the old Stoneacre Hospital. It was a company hospital. It was chartered in 1898, and it went online in 1902. And this is some of the equipment that came out of the old hospital. We have the old autoclave over here used to sterilization purposes. We have the old wheelchair. We have the old walker. We have the old Bunsen burner. This is the old miner's dinner bucket. It's very unique in itself. It's a 4-piece bucket. The miners always carried their snacks, dessert in the top part called the pie pan. In the center portion they used it for their sandwiches. In the bottom they carried their water for drinking water, and also they might carry them a little fruit jar of milk and bread, or Pepsi Cola or Coca-Cola or something in the bottom. The water would keep it cool. Okay, we have a list of all the different nationalities that migrated into this area to work the coal mines. There wasn't enough native whites to work the mines, so they brought in, I believe, about 16 different nationalities. And they went all the way from Russian, German, Portuguese, Hungarian, Italian, French. Some of them I don't really know what they were, but they were 16 different nationalities besides the native whites to work the mines. What we have here is one of the clothing racks for the miners using the bathhouse. He had one side for his bank clothes, dirty clothes, one for his towel rack. When he came to work, he usually put his clean clothes on the west side here and hung them up. Then he put on his bank clothes, his mining shoes, and went on the mines. When he came back in the evening time, he pulled his old bank clothes off, hung them up on this side, bathed, and put his street clothes on. Then he had a chain and a pulley. He'd pull it up to the ceiling, maybe 10 or 12 foot in the air, and that would keep it up where it would dry the clothes. A lot of times the miners' clothes would be wet from water and dampness, and they'd be dry when he came in the morning to put them back on. This is D.B. Wentz. He's one of the early officials of Stoneacre Coal Company. This is Otis Mauser. He was early official with Stoneacre Coal Company. This was J.S. Wentz. And the Wentz brothers, well, they were brother-in-laws to E.B. Licering. He was the president of Westmoreland Coal Company. Very nice display of pictures here from early Stoneacre Coal Company from 1882 till Westmoreland left town here in Big Stone Gap in mid-1995. Far too numerous for me to talk about, but there are many glorious, valuable pictures here, the early days of the heydays and to the modern mining of the recent Westmore.
The Tolliver House is over 100 years old. It was built in 1893 by Jerome Duff. He had a hotel across the street. He sold the hotel. They says, you can live here until you get your house built. Well, should have said that because the hotel burnt down before he had this house built. So they moved in here without any windows or doors. That was for her kid. So in the early 60s, when the coal industry began to die around here and they replaced the miners with machinery, or they closed the mines down, didn't open back up, Dr. Botts, Claire Lou Kelly, the McClenahans, and other people in town decided to do something, and they decided to buy this building and turn it into a craft shop and craft demonstrations, so forth, to try to draw tourism in here. And then at the same time they were trying to do this, they were negotiating with Miss Minnie Fox to be able to put the play on over here. And she finally conceded to go ahead and let them have the play and do it. And then I think the president of the Lincoln Memorial University drew up the script that they used for the play. Of course, over 40-some years, it has changed different ways there. A geologist by the name of Jimmy Hodge found this little girl running through the woods up here in Keokee. And her name was Elizabeth Morris. She was 9 years old. And he got acquainted with the family. He said she's a sharp little girl, but said she needs to get an education. I'm assuming that they didn't probably have a school up there, elementary or something like that in Keokee. So he was given permission to bring her down here, and she stayed upstairs for a period of about 3 months, got homesick, and she went back to Keokee. And she went to school here for about 3 months. And like I say, that's the start of the book on Travel on Lonesome Pine, and that's was the story that Jimmy Hodge, the geologist, told John Fox Jr. I can see him right now writing all that information down. We recreated the dining room for this area. This was a junk collector for many, many years. Even when the play was starting up, they used this for dressing facilities down here. We came in here, put a new ceiling in, we put a new floor in. We insulated these walls all the way around, put a second wall in here. We have a Ben Franklin stove over there that's over 200 years old. Sears and Roebuck put out a catalog back in 1900. Anyway, it showed this wash machine. This is a hand wash machine right here. It has a metal bottom to it. You put your water in, you put your clothes, your soap powder. And if you got a small kid in the family, they say they can stand here and shake this thing until they get it fire to clean. Then you dump the water out and everything. But this is a washing machine over 100 years old that was used that period of time. But once you wash your clothes, you're going to have to dry them. And back in that period of time, throw them out on a bush or something like that, let them dry. And then once you get through drying the clothes, you're going to have to iron some of them. So we have the irons, different type of irons that could be used for ironing the clothes. Okay, we have to have an iron board. Well, we take this old straight back chair and flip it over, and then take this board, and we've got our iron board, 2 for 1. And this is an original. Now they have copied this thing, and they do it down at Dollywood. They sell them, I guess, for displays and stuff like that. But this is a tremendous piece. Now we do have 2 gift shops fully stocked with especially local books. Well, we do crafts, but we don't get as many good crafts now as we used to. The local books are top seller for us. This pays our bills. The Corn Shuck Dolls, the Marshall family, we still are getting those left and right. Like I say, the lady that, Ms. Duff, when she opened the place up right here, this room and the back room right here, this was her bedroom and her living room, so to speak. She kept these 2 rooms, and her family's upstairs. And then back here, we just took this and changed it over. We had a lot of kitchen stuff in it, changed it and put it in here. And we've been experimenting last year with a lot of kind of collectible stuff to see if it would sell, and it did sell. And so we're going to have to see if we can get more.
Okay, we're here today at the Southwest Virginia Museum Historical State Park. The beautiful Victorian mansion that we're in was originally started in 1888 and completed in 1895. The builder was Rufus Ayers, and Rufus Ayers is a very common name in Wise County history. He's the gentleman who first brought the railroads to Big Stone Gap to Wise County. He was an early entrepreneur in this area and did a lot of development on investments in coal and timber. And he was Attorney General of Virginia. So he was really active in the politics of the time, but also very active in getting Wise County going and a lot of investment there. Rufus built this house as one of his summer homes, which is hard to believe today. It's such a beautiful home. He had other ones. This is the only house that is still standing today. All the interior is red oak, which was harvested from here in the mountains of Southwest Virginia. This is all the original woodwork, and it was made by craftsmen who labored to build the house. Also, the outside of the house is all the original rock work. It was sandstone and limestone that was quarried from Stone Mountain here in Wise County. And the principal stonemason on the house was Charlie Johnson. He was commonly referred to as Charlie the Swede Johnson. His real name was Gustav, and he actually was from Sweden. He was educated at the University of Stockholm and immigrated to the United States. And actually, when he first came to the United States, he was an interpreter for many of the immigrants at Ellis Island. One of the things I'd like to point out about the building that people find intriguing is the floor. As you notice, this very narrow board floor. And for many years, we thought, and it was thought that the floors were actually boards turned on their edge, and that you were just seeing the edge of the board. But in fact, we have had a historical architect look at the floor, and this is actually narrow cut, tongue and groove, if you can believe that. And there's another oak subfloor beneath this floor. So very well built building. The Ayers lived in the house for a number of years. Rufus lived here with his wife and his daughters and son-in-laws. And in the 20s, the building itself actually became apartments. And the apartments were rented out. You could have 1 or 2 rooms for your apartments. And there are several folks in the county who remember living here when it was apartment. The building itself was purchased by C. Bascom Slimp, and that's a name that's very familiar to folks all over Southwest Virginia, and particularly in Lee and Wise counties. C. Bascom Slimp, of course, was the congressman from this area, and he also was the private secretary to President Calvin Coolidge. And we could talk many hours about C. Bascom's political career and the things that he did on a national level and also an international level. But one of the things I like to talk about is C. Bascom the collector. And he was really, along with his sister Janie Slimp Newman, they were avid collectors. And we know this not only through the collection that we have here at the Southwest Virginia Museum, but the things that you find interesting, things we can talk about, is that he would go out, and him and Janie would go out and take pictures. They'd go out with photographers and photograph old houses of the area. He would do things like hire artists to create reproductions of historic houses of Southwest Virginia. He was avid about preserving the history, him along with Janie, because Janie was very active with him about preserving that history. And there are many stories about him and what a lover of history and a lover of Southwest Virginia that he was, that I can tell you. But one of the things that he wanted to do during his lifetime was get a national park established in Wise County. And that's a little kind of bit of trivia that a lot of folks don't know. On the second floor, we really talk about life at the turn of the century during the 1890s, and I'm sure lots of folks remember maybe their grandma or grandpa might have had a Victrola. They might have seen pictures of some of their ancestors in baby carriages. And of course, I don't know how many people would remember the Singer sewing machine. But one of my favorite things in here is this is actually a reproduction Sears and Roebuck catalog. And again, folks of all ages enjoy looking at this, but we love to show school groups. Well, guess what it costs to get this? And so they can flick at, you know, what that it costs to get different things at that time. And of course, people always want to be able to get that pocket watch for that. If you look at that, that's a beautiful pocket watch here. It's a Waltham pocket watch, and it's $15.45, and that's one of the very most expensive pocket watches in the catalog. Most of them are more in the $6 range for that. So they like to look at things like that. This particular hallway here is a hallway that talks about recreation of the time. And again, one of the neat things here, which again is representative of how all the small towns and communities were in the area. We have one of the original baseball uniforms from the Big Stone Gap baseball team. But every town, every community had its own baseball team. Of course, that was a huge recreational activity for the time, and even on up through the 30s, the 40s. I mean, it was just huge, and everybody played baseball. When he was congressman, he was really active in issues for Southwest Virginia. Before then, he went to VMI, and he actually had the highest GPA at VMI of anyone who's ever went to VMI, and that is actually his GPA was the highest of anyone at the Virginia military history, and it stands today. We're very excited. We have the Francis Gary Powers exhibit, and of course, I'm sure that's a name that everyone knows, and knows that Francis Gary Powers was a native of Pound. He actually graduated from Grundy High School and has lots of Southwest Virginia ties, and still has family right here in Wise County. And this is an exhibit that we brought in partnership with Mountain Empire Community College from the Cold War Museum, which is located in Northern Virginia. And this is on loan from the Cold War Museum to the Southwest Virginia Museum until October 10th. The first room that you enter on the third floor talks about Native Americans in Southwest Virginia. We did have quite a lot of Native Americans in our area. There were not permanent settlements in the area. This was more of a hunting area, more of a kind of disputed area between many of the Native American tribes that were in this area. And the principal Native American tribes in this area were the Cherokee and the Shawnee. On the third floor, it really gets more into the settling of Southwest Virginia and what we refer to as the taming of the wilderness. And one of the neat displays in here are displays on all the hand tools that you would have needed to build a cabin, to make your little homestead in the mountains of Southwest Virginia. And so there are a lot of neat tools in here: cross saws, planes, joiners, different axes, all those different kinds of things that you would have seen and used to build your cabin. And so in one display here, we of course have several different pictures of examples of log cabins built here in Southwest Virginia. And one of the neat pictures also here is of some women grinding corn on the porch of one of those cabins. Other kinds of things that you would have been doing, you would have been making different kinds of fabric that you would have woven on your loom. And we do have a full-size loom set up here. And it is an operational loom. It actually works and has all its pieces to it. And so that's neat for folks to be able to see that. We have all kinds of different early plows, various farming equipment, early churns, early washing machines, again, a cider mill, and of course, at one time, Wise County was the largest apple producing county in the state of Virginia. Another piece of equipment here that lots of folks in Southwest Virginia might have had, and that's a distillery, and this is actually one that was used to make moonshine, which was a common practice here in Southwest Virginia. That commonly, of course, was called corn liquor. And you know, it was very important economically. You know, people traded it with people for supplies, and also it was carried out of the mountains to other markets around the East Coast and sold. And so it really was a form of, not only was it alcohol, it was a form of money. here in Southwest Virginia.
Hopefully, the availability of such wonderful treasures will instill in you and future generations a greater appreciation for the rich cultural heritage of our region.